Hey guys, we're going to be continuing from the last episode. So, last time we talked about while loops, and if I'm correct, we talked about string manipulation as well. So, this episode, we're going to be talking about the exercise I gave you at the end of the last episode. Go check that out if you haven't seen it yet. So, this is going to be the pyramid code, or I'd given you all sort of an assignment to draw or write to print out a pyramid when given an input, something like this. This was like I told you, if for beginners, people who just start, like who just watch till there, you can do this much. Like given a height, we should print out a pyramid of this. And if you understood the concept a bit more, then to print out a pyramid, something like this. You have like one sec. So I think it'll be three. Something like this, given a height. So for now I'm just going to be talking to you about the first one. So I'm gonna give you a solution. There are many ways to solve a problem in Python. So this is my solution if you cannot get the answer, and this will help you. Try doing these sort of small assignments so that you understand, you take in what you're learning. Because right now, Python or a programming language is just a tool, and you're supposed to make use of the tool in various ways, or supposed to you're supposed to use this tool. Otherwise, you won't get used to it, or you won't be able to code properly. So first, for this code, we're going to be taking in height. So we take in a height. We take an input. Because we want this to be an integer, we put int, put input, um, input, and this is gonna be enter the height. Okay, so we enter the height. Now what you want to do is you want to go through, and given the number of the heights, you want to go and print 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, or if the height is 4, you want to print 4 lines. So we want to repeat it for the number of times the height, or depending on the height, we want to print it that many number of times. So as I taught you, looping. So for I in, you can also use the while loop, which I taught you last time, but for loop would be adequate for now. For this example, so for I in range of height, so it's going to repeat for how many ever times the number height is. So it's 5 times, it'll repeat 5 times. And now you want to print out these asterisks. Okay, so just think about this logically. Okay, the first time the first iteration, or the first cycle of this loop, we the counter I, which I taught you last time, is going to be 1. Okay, and we want to print out 1 asterisk. Then the second cycle, second round, we're gonna print 2 asterisks. Now that's basically the same as the counter, and then 3 and 4. This is a very simple example. So we have to print an asterisk for the number of time for the same as the same value of I. So like if I is 1, you're going to print 1 asterisk. If I is 2, then you're going to print 2 asterisks, and that's so on and so forth. So we would print an asterisk for I number of times. Okay, so into I told you right last time that depending, into is one of the methods or ways of manipulating strings. What the multiplication sign does is it basically combines that value of the string for the number of times you into it by. So we want to into it by by I number of times. Now the problem with this code currently is that, as I told you, I starts from 0, and asterisk into 0 would be nothing. It would be an empty string. So what we would like to do is we would like to start from 1. So I told you that for loop can have 3 values. One is the start. If you're not, you can either write it standalone, which is 1 value, or 2, which would be the start and the stop, or 3, which is start, stop, and the step. Step would be you want to plus it by 1, or the counter, how many times you want to add or subtract the counter by. We can ignore this for now. So currently we want to start from 1. Okay, and for loops, they don't really include the height. So if you see this example right now, when you run it, it's gonna run properly, besides the fact that it's gonna miss the last value because we're starting from 1, not 0. So we enter the height. If I enter 3, it's gonna print it it's going to print 2 rows, not 3. So we actually have to plus it by 1, as the upper bound is non-inclusive. So this should work for the first example. So there we have sort of solved the first example of this code. So now we move on to the second example. So what's different from the first example? So the first biggest difference is that the number of asterisks you're printing out is not just the same amount as I. Okay, it's gonna be like an every other number. So it'll be 1, then 3, then 5, then 7, then I believe 9, 11, so on and so forth. So we need to sort of come up with a formula per se or something like that. To all you could use intuition, but what I was thinking of doing would be, the first value is 1, and that is basically 2 into I minus 1, which would be, so if I is per se 2, then 2 into 2 would be 4, minus 1 would be 3. So that's how you would sort of know the number of asterisks to print out. So what I would do is, just for neatness, I would put a bracket in and be 2 into I minus 1. So this would basically give you every odd number of from starting from 1. So that would be like this. So 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay, now what we need to do is calculate the spaces. Okay, so this is a bit difficult, I would say. So we need to calculate the number of spaces and put the space before the asterisk. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to come up with a logical solution for this. So what I've thought up would be is to take the base. Okay, you know that this is the base, and we first need to know the number of asterisks that are there in the base, and using that we can solve it. So what I thought of would be to take the number of asterisks that are there in that row when you're iterating through, and minus it by the base. So you'll get the number of total spaces. That's 1 and 2, which will be this one for this row. Okay, so 2 spaces. So it'll be 5 minus 3 if you're on the second row, which will give you 2 spaces. And we want to divide it by 2 because we want to print only half of the spaces first, and the second half we want to print later. So that's what we're going to do. So to first find out what the base is going to be, we know at the base our height is going to equal the I value is going to equal to the height. So you can basically sort of write the max width. Okay, the max width would be this value, but where I is equal to the height, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Because on the last iteration it will be the number of asterisks, that's how many times it's printed, and I is equal to the height. So that's our max width. Now we want to print a number of spaces. Okay, so this is a space, and we're going to enter it by the number of spaces we want to print. So the number of spaces we want to print is the max width of the pyramid at the ending. So wait, let me just put a space here for neatness. The max width, so that would be the max width, and this minus the current row, or the number of asterisks in the current row, which would be this value here. We could just take the bracket and put this entire thing, and we want to divide that by 2, which is we get the total number of spaces, and we want to divide by 2 because only half the spaces are there at the start. So we use the integer division because this sort of into thing only works with integers, and as I thought to you, the double slashes means an integer division. Anyways, this will always gonna be an integer, but integer value, but won't be an integer type, if that makes sense. So this is the starting and the ending, but the thing is that at the ending it doesn't really make sense because if you go to the next line over here, you're not gonna have the spaces. It would give you the same output technically. Now there's one big flaw with this. Y'all can pause the video and try to find out, and I will show you the flaw right now, which is, oh sorry, oh wait, oh okay, yeah, sorry, my brackets were wrong, so this whole thing should be one number, if I'm correct. I'm getting really messed up with my brackets. Oh, okay, so I have to put a bracket here. Just enclose this because this has to be a number, and it thought that this whole thing was divided by 2, which is incorrect. So it should be this. Yeah, so the problem here is instead of the spaces being before, it's just printing the spaces on top. So our spaces are printing here in between the lines here. The problem is that we're going to the next line as soon as you're printing the spaces. So in the last episode, I taught y'all that if you type end equals to this will tell us that we don't need to go to the next line. So if we do this, you want to print a height of 4. There, we have solved the solution and we have come up with an answer. So I hope you all like this sort of episodes of series. This is just to test your knowledge. After every 2-3 episodes, I think I will do something like this. With these basic concepts, you all can do a lot in Python. So I think in the next episode, I think I might cover functions or something to do with more with what we have learned or another assignment. Let's see. So I hope you enjoyed it, and comment what you think about my teaching style or how you'll learn from this video. I'm not the best at teaching, but I'm trying to improve myself. So thank you and have a nice day.